Have you ever been told, "Isn't silence your agreement?" Or, "Doesn't saying anything mean you're giving up?" We live in an age where silence is almost considered a sin. Society glorifies people who speak quickly, react immediately, and always have an answer ready. But if you choose to stay silent, people are likely to label you as weak, insecure, or even opinionated. But stop for a moment. Have you ever wondered, what if silence is actually a strength? What if silence is not a retreat, but a step to a new level of self-control? The truth is, most of us are programmed to judge actions based on how loud they are. Whoever speaks louder, who reacts faster, who bangs the table harder by default, that person is stronger. But I want you to think of another image. A good chess player does not rush to move his pieces, but observes his opponent's every move. A real fighter does not always strike. Sometimes he just stands there, eyes fixed on his opponent, waiting for the right moment. Silence is the same. It doesn't always mean giving up or agreeing. In many situations, silence is strategic. It's a pause that allows you to observe more closely, evaluate more deeply, and keep the initiative in your hands. It's a way to protect your emotional energy, to avoid getting sucked into arguments that you already know are pointless. I remember one time in a tense meeting. My colleague was constantly attacked by another person with provocative questions. Everyone expected him to immediately respond. But no, he just smiled, kept quiet, and wrote a few lines in his notebook. After the meeting ended, everyone realized that it was the silence that made the other person lose confidence, feel embarrassed, and finally, reveal the weaknesses in his argument. He didn't win with words, he won with control. The point is, we need to define silence. No longer see it as an act of humility, of submission, but see it as an act of choice. When you are silent, it is not because you have nothing to say, but because you have understood that not everything is worth answering. If you can change your mindset from silence is avoidance to silence is control, you will find yourself much stronger. Because at that time, silence is no longer a cover to hide fear, but becomes a tool for you to master the situation, master your emotions, and master yourself. In a world where everyone is trying to have the say, the person who chooses to keep quiet at the right time is the one who really wins. And when you understand this, silence is no longer a defense, it is a subtle offensive strategy. You see, silence is not always a sign of resignation or defeat. Sometimes, it is a choice, and the interesting thing is, that choice is the true expression of your power. Active silence means you could have spoken, but you chose not to. Not because you don't have the answers, not because you're weak, but because you understand that not every story needs another word. Imagine you're sitting in a conversation, and someone is deliberately provoking you. They want you to lose your cool, to react immediately. Most people would bounce back. Like a ball thrown against a wall will bounce back immediately. But when you stay silent, you're not just refusing to play the game, you're also taking away the power they think they have. This is completely different from passive silence when you don't speak out of fear, pressure, or lack of confidence. It's an imposed silence, and it often leaves you feeling trapped. On the contrary, active silence is when you are silent with awareness. When you have seen the whole picture clearly, and you know that another word now is just a waste of energy. I once had a friend who worked in negotiation. He told me something that has stuck with me: when I stay silent, the other person starts talking. And when they talk, they reveal what I need. Indeed, silence is not a void. It is a tool. It is time you buy yourself to observe, evaluate, and wait for the perfect moment. We also need to remember that communication is not just about words. Your eyes, your facial expressions, the way you sit, the way you look, all send a much stronger message than a hasty answer. A calm look sometimes makes the other person ask themselves, what are they thinking? What do they know that I don't? And it is that curiosity that makes you unpredictable and difficult to attack. The great thing is, when you master silence, you find that you no longer need to explain everything to everyone. You no longer get caught up in proving yourself right in every little argument. You begin to understand that the right moment to stay silent not only protects you from negative situations, but also increases the value of the moments when you do speak up. Remember, you don't have to fight every battle to prove you're strong. Sometimes, true strength lies in knowing when to back off, not because you're weak, but because you have the upper hand. Have you noticed something interesting? In most arguments, the loser is usually the one who loses his cool first. And losing his cool usually starts with losing his silence. When you don't react immediately, you're giving yourself a priceless gift. Time. Time to process information, to take a deep breath, to slow your heart, and to let reason take over. This is especially important in conflict situations, when emotions can flare up and overwhelm your judgment. A word said in anger can ruin a relationship, an opportunity, or even a reputation that you've spent years building. Silence, in this case, is like a safety brake. It prevents you from rushing headlong into the cliff of regret. And once you learn to hit the brakes at the right time, you'll find yourself no longer being swept away by the flow of other people's emotions. Not only does silence help control emotions, it also puts you in a position of power, proactive in communication. People who talk a lot often reveal their weaknesses, unintentionally giving away information they didn't mean to reveal. Conversely, when you're quiet, you're observing. You see gestures, glances, and small details that others don't notice. You spot holes in their stories, recognize weaknesses in their arguments. And the best part is, silence makes you unpredictable. When others don't know what you're thinking, they can't prepare for it. That's why many top leaders and negotiators use silence as a strategic weapon. I remember a story from a negotiator. He said that after making an offer, he didn't say anything more. He just sat there, silently, looking at the other person. At first, the atmosphere was a little tense. Then the other person started to elaborate, explain, and lower his own demands. He just smiled. The power here doesn't come from words, but from the intentional silence. The same is true in debate. If you constantly react, your words will quickly lose their value. But if you stay quiet, listen, and only choose the right moment to speak, when everyone is waiting for you to speak, your words will become much more valuable. So don't be afraid of silence. Don't think of silence as a void that needs to be filled. Think of it as a space you're creating to take control of your emotions, control of the conversation, and control of the end result. In this noisy world, sometimes true power lies in knowing when to or not say. And when you say it, it will be a word that no one dares to ignore. We've talked a lot about the power of silence. But you know what? Silence has its dark side. And if used at the wrong time, it can turn you from a master to an accomplice. There are situations where silence is not wise, but dangerous. For example, when you witness something wrong, an unjust act, or an insulting word, if you choose to remain silent, you are not only avoiding trouble for yourself, you are also unwittingly contributing to the existence of that wrong. Often, people do not need your consent. Just your silence is enough to give them the feeling of being given the green light. I remember a saying that I always keep in mind. To remain silent in the face of evil is to stand on the side of evil. There are times when we need to speak up, not to prove our strength, but to protect our core values, and to protect those who are weaker than us. Because if everyone remains silent, then what is wrong will automatically become right. But there's another danger of being too quiet. It can make people think you don't care. Or worse, that you don't have a point. At work, this can cause colleagues and superiors to pass you over when it comes to big opportunities, because they think you have nothing to contribute. In personal relationships, it can make loved ones feel like you're distant, cold, and not really there for them. So how do you balance between being silent and speaking up? The answer lies in reading the situation and asking yourself, what is my purpose in speaking up? If the answer is to protect, to guide, to make the situation better, speak up. If it's just to vent your emotions or win or lose a petty argument, keep quiet. A tactful person is not someone who is always silent, nor is he someone who is always talking. He is someone who knows when be silent to observe, and when speak up to change the situation. This tact doesn't come naturally, it comes from experience. From saying the wrong thing, and learning your own lessons. Remember, timely words are golden, but timely silence is even more precious. And if you learn this art of balance, you will both gain respect from others and maintain peace within yourself. Active silence isn't something you're born with, it's a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned. But to be silent and still be proactive, you need to start with one important thing: control your reactions. When someone says or does something that upsets you, your natural instinct is to react immediately. But try changing that habit. Next time, before you respond, count to 10 silently, or simply take a deep breath. You'll be surprised how in just a few seconds, your anger will subside and you'll start to see things more clearly. Remind yourself, not everything is worth reacting to. Because the truth is, most of the things we get angry about a week from now won't matter anymore. Next, instead of rushing to judgment, observe. When you're quiet, you'll notice details that others miss. You'll start to notice their expressions, their body language, or the inconsistencies in their words. It's like taking a few steps back to look at a picture. The whole picture will always give you a more accurate view than just looking at a small part. And here's a golden rule: say less but quality. Don't fill the void with meaningless noise. Every word you say should carry value, a message, or at least a clear meaning. A wise person is not one who speaks much, but one who makes others listen every time he speaks. Make your words valuable, by choosing the right time and the right content. You can apply this active silence to every aspect of your life. At work, use silence to listen to your customers or partners speak their mind. You will discover important information that they unintentionally reveal, and that helps you make better decisions. In the family, when an argument breaks out, take a few minutes of silence to avoid saying things you will regret later. A short silence can sometimes save a relationship. On social media, resist the temptation to respond immediately to negative comments. Because most keyboard wars only waste your time and energy. And don't change anything. Developing active silence is not a one-day process, but a lifelong process. There will be times when you succeed, and times when you react hastily. But every time you hold back an unnecessary comment or avoid a pointless argument, you are one step closer to mastering yourself. Remember, silence is not an escape. It is an intelligent pause. A choice of someone who knows what they are doing and why they are doing it. And when you make it a habit, you will realize silence not only helps you control the situation, but also helps you control your own life. Perhaps after all we have said today, you will realize one thing. Silence is not running away, not defeat, and certainly not weakness. Silence, when used at the right time, is a way to win, without you having to sweat or make excuses. Think of it as inner strength. It's quiet, unobtrusive, but steady as a rock in a rushing stream. Because to be silent in the face of provocation, you need to be alert. To be silent in the face of gossip, you need to be restrained. And to be silent when you can speak up, you need to know what's truly worth speaking about. This silence brings long-term benefits that you do not expect. First of all, it helps you preserve your mental energy. You no longer waste your energy on meaningless arguments, on people who are not worth explaining to. You maintain your image, a calm, reliable and unshakable person. And most of all, silence gives you the distance needed to see things objectively, without letting temporary emotions cloud your judgment. I want you to remember one thing. Your silence can be more powerful than any words. A calm look, a slight smile, or simply no response. Sometimes it is the sharpest answer. Winning doesn't always come from winning an argument, being right, or defeating someone with your arguments. Sometimes, true victory is when you walk away from the game with inner peace. So, from today, choose silence proactively. Let it be your shield to protect you from the unworthy, and also your sharp sword when you need to counterattack. Let silence become your own language, a language that everyone must respect. Because in the end, the truly strong person is not the one who talks the most, but the one who knows when should say, and when should be silent. If you've made it this far, it's no coincidence. Perhaps the universe is sending you a signal that you're ready for change. What you've just heard is not book theory, but experience, a reflection that has been built up over many years, for those who are quiet and open enough to receive it. I can't promise that your life will change overnight, but if you really listen and practice, in a few months, you will realize that your thinking, awareness, and energy are at a different level. And when you do, you will no longer be the same version of yourself. If you feel this video resonates with you, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel and keep going. Welcome to the journey of enlightenment. where each idea can open a new direction for your life.